There is a moment many parents know well. Your child falls, or their voice suddenly breaks, or their small body stiffens with frustration over something that seems minor to you but enormous to them. And before they cry harder, before they decide what to feel, they look at your face, not for instructions, not for discipline, but for something much deeper. They are trying to understand one silent question. Am I safe here? In many homes, that answer is not given through words. It is given through presence, through tone, through the emotional atmosphere that surrounds the child every day. And this is one quiet difference often noticed in Japanese parenting. Not perfection, not endless patience, not children who never struggle, but a kind of steadiness. A child may feel upset, disappointed, even overwhelmed, yet they are less likely to feel alone inside those emotions. Because calm children are not always children with fewer feelings. Very often they are children who do not have to question the emotional ground beneath them. And that brings us to an important question. What do Japanese parents rarely do that helps children remain calm? The answer is not that they love more. It is not that they control better. And it is not that their children are simply more obedient. Very often it is this. They try not to make the child emotionally responsible for figuring out the parent. They do not turn the home into a place where affection and confusion arrive together. They do not let emotional signals swing so wildly that the child must constantly scan the room to understand what version of safety is available today. And when that steadiness is missing, something subtle begins to happen. A child still loves the parent. A child still reaches for the parent. But inside that reaching, there can be hesitation. Not because love is absent, but because the signals around love have become mixed. The child begins to feel two things at once. I need you, and also, I am not sure what happens when I come close. This is where emotional confusion begins. Not in one bad day, not in one imperfect reaction. No family is calm all the time, and no child needs perfection. What shapes a child most deeply is not a difficult moment. It is the pattern around the difficult moment. It is what the child learns to expect from your face, your tone, your energy, your response when they are at their most vulnerable. And if you want to understand why some children seem calm on the outside but unsettled underneath, or why other children become clingy, explosive, frozen, or unusually watchful, it helps to look closely at 5 patterns that quietly disturb a child's inner balance. The first is unpredictable emotional response. Some days your child comes to you upset, and you meet them with softness. You kneel down. You listen. You help them settle. Other days, maybe because you are exhausted, overstimulated, carrying too much, something else comes forward. Your words sharpen. Your face closes. Your attention disappears. The child does not understand your stress history. They only feel the shift. And what unsettles children most is often not hardness alone, but inconsistency. If a child can predict a response, the nervous system adapts around it. But when warmth and coldness keep changing places, the child cannot settle into understanding. They remain alert. Hopeful one moment, uncertain the next. They begin to watch closely, to read your footsteps, to study your breathing, to measure the emotional weather before bringing you their feelings. From the outside, this child may look sensitive, but often they are becoming a careful, emotional observer because stability has become something they must search for. In Japanese-style parenting, there is often less emphasis on reacting big and more emphasis on maintaining atmosphere. The goal is not to overpower the child's emotion, but to keep the adult presence steady enough that the child does not have to decode it. The second pattern is becoming emotionally frightening without meaning to. This does not only happen through shouting. Sometimes it happens when a parent's face suddenly goes blank, when their body tenses, when irritation enters the room before language does, when a child's tears are met not with openness, but with visible discomfort. To an adult, this may seem small, but to a child, your face is information. Your body is information. Your nervous system is information. If your child brings you sadness and your whole presence says, "This is too much," the child does not simply learn that sadness is inconvenient. They may begin to feel that sadness itself creates distance, that strong feelings disturb connection, that the safest way to remain close is to become easier, quieter, less emotionally visible. This is one reason some children look calm while silently disconnecting from themselves. Japanese parenting, at its best, often teaches something different, that difficult feelings can exist without collapsing the relationship, that frustration does not have to become alarm, that a parent can remain emotionally available even while setting a boundary. Calm children are often raised by calm nervous systems near them, not flawless ones, but regulated enough that the child's feelings do not become a threat to the bond. The third pattern is role reversal. This one is quiet, and because it can look loving, many parents miss it. A parent is lonely, overwhelmed, emotionally undersupported, and slowly, without intending harm, they begin leaning toward the child for soothing. Maybe not in obvious ways. Maybe the child simply learns that mother becomes fragile when stressed, or father becomes emotionally distant and less comforted, or the household settles more smoothly when the child stays easy, mature, helpful, undemanding. So the child adapts beautifully. They become thoughtful, attentive, empathetic beyond their years. Everyone praises how understanding they are, but underneath that maturity, something important may be happening. The child is learning to organize themselves around the parent's emotional state before their own. Instead of asking, "What am I feeling right now?" they begin asking, "How is my parent feeling, and how can I make this easier?" This often creates children who seem exceptionally well-behaved, but carry tension in the body, confusion in identity, and guilt around having needs. Japanese-style calm parenting does not ask the child to emotionally carry the adult. It protects the child's role as child. The adult may be tired. The adult may be imperfect. But the emotional structure remains clear. You do not need to take care of me in order to belong here. That message alone can calm a child more than many parenting techniques ever will. The fourth pattern is emotional invalidation wrapped in correction. This happens when the parent focuses so quickly on fixing behavior that the inner experience of the child disappears. "Stop crying, that's nothing. You're overreacting, you're fine. Big kids don't get upset over this." Many parents say these things not because they are cruel, but because they are uncomfortable watching distress stay in the room. But when a child repeatedly hears that their inner experience is too much, too dramatic, too inconvenient, or simply incorrect, they do not become emotionally stronger. They become divided. One part of them still feels. Another part learns that feeling openly is unsafe. And this is where emotional build-up begins. The anger that seems sudden, the shutdown that seems confusing, the tears that come out of nowhere, they are rarely coming out of nowhere. They are coming from all the moments the child could not safely bring themselves into contact. A calmer Japanese-style response sounds different. Not permissive, not indulgent, just grounded. You're upset. That was disappointing. You wanted something different. I'm here. The emotion is acknowledged. The boundary can still remain. But the child is not abandoned inside the feeling. This teaches something powerful. My feelings do not have to disappear in order for connection to stay. And children who learn that often calm faster, not because they are silenced, but because they are not fighting two battles at once, the feeling itself and the fear of losing the relationship because of it. The fifth and deepest pattern is the unresolved parent. This is where many of the other patterns begin. Sometimes a parent is not reacting to the child alone. They are reacting to old strain still living inside them. A child's crying may awaken memories of being ignored. A child's anger may stir emotions the parent was never allowed to express. A child's dependence may touch the parent's own exhaustion, resentment, or old loneliness. So the response becomes larger than the moment, not because the parent does not love the child, but because their own inner story has not yet been fully understood. This is one of the hardest truths in parenting. Children are often affected less by the pain their parents once lived through, and more by the pain their parents never had space to make sense of. An unresolved parent may still be loving, still devoted, still trying very hard. But children are deeply perceptive. They feel what has not been spoken. They notice when care comes with tension, when comfort comes with distance, when affection is sincere but not fully settled. This is why healing changes parenting so profoundly. Not because it creates a perfect mother or father, but because it makes presence more available. The past stops entering every moment uninvited, and when that happens, the child feels something rare and regulating, that the adult in front of them is really here. This may be the quiet wisdom beneath what many people admire in Japanese parenting. The calm is not only in the child, it begins in the atmosphere around the child. In the lowered voice, in the steady routine, in the refusal to make every emotional moment dramatic, in the adult's effort to remain emotionally coherent, especially when the child is not. This does not mean Japanese parents never get frustrated. Of course they do. It means the parenting ideal often leans toward composure over intensity, observation over emotional flooding, rhythm over chaos. And children grow inside that rhythm. They learn that discomfort can be carried, that disappointment can be survived, that correction does not have to come with shame, that closeness does not vanish when emotions become inconvenient. So if you are listening to this and recognizing yourself, take a breath. This is not a verdict, it is an invitation. You do not need to become a different person overnight. You do not need to erase every mistake your child has ever seen. Children are not shaped by perfection. They are shaped by patterns, yes, but patterns can change. A calmer home begins in small places, in pausing before responding, in noticing when your child's emotion is waking up your own, in staying present for 10 seconds longer than you usually do, in repairing after the moments when you got lost, in letting your child remain the child. And perhaps most importantly, in giving yourself permission to face your own story with honesty instead of shame. Because when a parent becomes more settled within themselves, the child feels it. They stop searching the parent's face for danger. They stop carrying so much of the emotional guesswork alone. They begin to trust the space between you, and from that trust, calm grows. Not instantly, not perfectly, but steadily. That is what many children need most. Not louder lessons, not stricter control, not better performance from the family, just a home where love feels emotionally clear, where the parent's presence stays recognizable, where feelings can exist without breaking connection, where the child does not have to choose between being honest and being close. So maybe the real question is not, what do Japanese parents do to keep children calm? Maybe it is this. What do they try not to add to the child's inner world? Too much fear, too much emotional unpredictability, too much adult weight, too much shame around feeling, and in that absence, something beautiful becomes possible. A child who does not have to work so hard to feel safe, finally has enough space to be a child. If this spoke to something real in you, keep listening to that feeling, not with self-blame, but with attention, because awareness is how cycles soften. Presence is how homes change, and a calmer parent, even an imperfect one, can become the steady place a child remembers for the rest of their life.